Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Awakening Talk and Stories, a podcast that is meant to help people along their spiritual journeys. And that is what we're going to do tonight. I have a very special guest with me tonight, Psychic Medium Cyndee Weston, and she's going to be here to share her spiritual awakening story and how everything unfolded in her life. And so, before we do, I would just like to ask all of our angels and guides to come with us and to be with us and to create the ideal sacred space around all of us through all directions of space and time. And now I would like to invite in Cyndee Weston. Welcome, Cyndee.
Hi.
Welcome, and I really appreciate you coming on tonight. And I guess since we're friends, we've known each other for quite some time, and we have ridden horses together, and we share a love of animals and so many things. And I just want to share with people how we met and how spirit works. So Cyndee and I met. Cyndee sent me an email. I had brought my horse to a trainer, and Cyndee knew the trainer, and she messaged me, and that is how we met. And Spirit put us together before we actually started with this whole unfoldment with our spiritual awakening. So I love how Spirit works. And so, with that being said, Cyndee, would you like to share with everybody your story, how you discovered you had psychic gifts?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Melissa. And just to mention about the horse thing, we didn't know it at the time, but we're in the same, we're soul family. So yeah, that was cool how we came together.
Yeah.
All right. So I've always known things, and I've always heard things, and from a really young age, you know, I was raised Pentecostal holiness, and so whenever I knew things, if I told anybody that I knew things, well-meaning family members would tell me, that's a sin. Don't ever do that again, that kind of thing. And it kind of discouraged me from letting things develop the way they should. Although I did see ghosts, which I thought were spirit that I thought were ghosts. I all through my life, I continued hearing things, and I was, you know, became scared in my adult life of spirit, thinking they're ghosts, and I didn't allow myself to entertain the thought that it was spirit wanting help or anything. That was so far from my mind. It was just, not even something I was thinking about. But and I've always had a love for animals. Had horses my entire life, dogs, cats.
Yep.
Um,
Did you
so
find that? Did you find at an early age you were able to connect with them in ways that perhaps people didn't understand? Do you have that early
yes,
connection?
yes. And growing up on a farm, okay, an animal was a means to a meal. And if we had, cats, our cat had kittens or something, my family would be like, we're not feeding a bunch of cats. That you have to find them a home, and I always did because, you know, I knew what would happen if I didn't. And yes, I was able to relate to all the animals on our farm better than anybody in my family. And sometimes I could say, this is what's wrong with them, or I think this is what you need to do for this animal. And it was usually right because I was going within for that information. I just didn't realize what was happening.
Right, right. Yeah, and so were you able to sense their feelings, their emotions, what they were feeling in their body, things like that, to help people to connect in with maybe what their clairs are, their psychic senses, their abilities?
Yes, and I found I was about 5 years old, and I was looking for my cat, and she was missing, and I was looking all over, and we had a neighbor that backed up to us, and I walked up to their patio, thinking maybe I would find Puff there, my cat. And the cat was laying there and it wasn't moving, and something had happened and it had come on their back porch and died.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I picked it up, I heard, "Don't worry." But, being kind of hysterical, I carried the cat inside screaming. I ran inside. The cat's not moving. And my folks explained to me that the cat had died.
Right.
But I could still hear the cat in my mind, and I thought, well, that was kind of odd. I never gave that much thought after that, but until we started communicating with animals. Melissa and I were so close right away, and we talked about some of the things that we shared growing up with these spiritual things that were happening to us. And we both realized that, hey, maybe there's more to this. But we were both dead set on not doing anything that would offend God, because we both came from religious backgrounds. And so we decided, wherever this was leading, we were just going to do whatever pleased God and go from there, And I was having all this awakening, and I was hearing things and seeing things. And one day there was a tiny white feather in my car. And because I had asked for a sign, I'm like, if this is right, okay. If this is not, what are we doing, God? Because I'm not asking you for these gifts. And so I saw this white feather, and I came home, and I got out of my car with the feather in my hand, and I just fell to my knees, and I just said, God, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. If these are gifts that you want me to have, then I accept it. But if these are not gifts that you aren't blessing me with, take them away. Just take it all away. And of course that didn't happen. But that's what I prayed for. God, just take it away if I'm not meant to be this person. And because all my life, just I knew when the phone rang at certain times, it was bad news. And I even knew who the bad news was about.
Your precognition, yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I knew things, After that, though, I went to Melissa's, and I spent the night with her, and we stayed up talking, and I told her that I wanted to learn to channel. And she didn't know a lot about it at the time.
Oh, I didn't.
And I had been gorging on these podcasts on how to, on a lady that channels, Betsy Morgan. I had listened to him all the way to and Melissa lives about 4 hours from me. So I listened to him all the way there. And I just thought it was so cool that she would teach people how to channel, and she channeled, and these were her stories. And I said, I want to learn to channel. And it kind of worried Melissa, but the more we investigated channeling, knowing that it was, something from God or an angel. And I really wanted to channel archangels if I could, because I'd heard other people channeling on videos. And so we learned how to do that, and no problem. We learned it quick.
We did.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I remember you telling me you were taking the channeling class, and we went through, like, we have to tell everybody, like, we went through purification of our spirit. We went through so much doubt and so much removal of religious programming. And I'm not saying religion is bad, but what I'm saying is it doesn't welcome in the full wholeness of our divinity and our connection to the divine. In other words, it makes a middleman, and we don't need a middleman to our connection with God, to source, to the universe,
No, but I'm closer to Holy Spirit than I've ever been in my entire life.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. But I think you're like me in so many ways, that you you were probably fascinated with esoteric things and spiritual things, but you didn't realize that's what it was, probably
Right.
like angels. Like I would read books about angels and the saints and their lives and all of that. And that was my early life, you know, from my earliest recollection to, you know, now.
Well, you probably remember this. What shook me into reality is I had cancer, and the whole time I had cancer, and it was bad. I mean, it was really bad.
Yeah.
Had melanoma, and um, I never once asked God to save me. I was kind of angry at God for something else in my life, and not once did I ask. So after I survived, and I knew I was going to be okay, I was like, why, God? Why did you save me when I should have died? And I really wanted to die when I had cancer.
Mm.
And so I knew that I was meant for something else after that. Well, a few years rocked on, and I'm still looking for what's my purpose. And I go to that funeral. I go to a funeral of someone that my husband and I knew. It was his wife. We didn't know her all that great, but we knew her. And I saw out of the corner of my eye this angel coming. It was kind of like clear smoke coming across the room, and it came around behind her casket and stood. And it stood there the whole time, and it had wings. I could clearly see that. And I asked my husband, "Did you see that angel?" And he's like, "What?" And I leaned forward and asked my kids, and they're like, "Are you crazy?" And so I watched this angel, and then at the end, there was more smoke coming in from the other side of the room, and it was a choir of angels that lined up around this one angel and around her coffin. And while the preacher had everybody praying, and I wanted to pray for her, but I knew if I closed my eyes, they were going to be gone.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, just held my head down and kept an eye on them. And the big angel that had been there, which I now know was Gabriel, he laid his wings out across her casket, and then just all of a sudden, all of it went up. And I knew that was not my message. I knew that message was for this woman that had passed for her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so and it really shook me up because I knew how real it was.
Yes.
There was nobody going to convince me that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of really put things in motion for me. And then I met Melissa, and we started.
Let me just stop you there. Let me just ask you, Cyndee. So to make this clear for people, okay? So we have our physical eyesight, but we have our clear sight, which is our clairvoyance sight that we see things. So when you saw that beautiful angel Gabriel, were you seeing him with your physical eyes or your clairvoyant sight?
Yeah, I was seeing it physical, and I don't always see with my physical eyes. And I have not seen an angel before. I had seen ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
but not an angel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it made a huge difference in
Yeah.
the way I thought.
Yeah.
And so then after I asked God to, send it away if I'm not meant for this, I was reading my Bible one day, and it fell out of my hand. And when I picked it up, it was open to where there was a message about the gifts that God gives us, that he gives different people different gifts.
Mm.
And so that made me think, well, if there's one verse, there must be more. And I found every time I would just flip the pages, that there it would be open right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I found like 12 messages real easy.
Mm-hmm.
About the gifts that God gives us.
Yes.
Then it was like solidified. Okay, this is for me. This is about me, and these are my gifts, and I'm going to embrace it.
Yep. Yep. You just can't make this stuff up.
No.
When you ask for the signs, when you ask to be led in the right direction, God, the angels, the universe will make it so clear that it will be undeniable. Isn't that right?
Yeah, one time I asked for a sign, and I asked for an eagle because I knew it was summertime and we weren't going to see an eagle in Oklahoma. And I went on with my weekend, and I did everything that I needed to do. And I opened my iPad up on a couple days later. And the first thing that pops up is this painting that my friend, another friend had done of a bald eagle. And I was like, okay, I didn't ask for a live one.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's how it happened.
I love that. I love that. I asked for a sign once, for crows to come, like really close to my house. They do now all the time, but
Right.
but then they weren't, and I had a crow fly in clairvoyantly right into my face. And I'm like, what in the world just happened? And so sometimes we ask for a sign or something, and it's not exactly what we think. And then we think, was that really my sign? Like it wasn't really what I asked for, but and I remember telling you this, and you said it was still crows. And I was like, yeah, that's right. It was still crows, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I was afraid to let anybody know
Mhm.
that I had these gifts. I mean, a lot of people have intuition. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people have intuition.
Yeah,
I was also an empath, but I didn't know there was a name for it.
yeah.
I always felt people's feelings. I could feel, especially if I went to a funeral, whether I knew the person or not.
Mhm,
I always picked up all that sadness. It was a great burden. And then I learned about protecting myself,
mhm.
and that made all the difference in the world to me.
Yes,
So a lot of people are empathic and are intuitive, and they have other gifts. They're just not open to it.
right,
Uh, but, you know, some of them are, they just aren't to the extreme that I became once I realized that these were gifts God wanted me to have. So,
right. Yeah.
and I also didn't want my husband to know. I didn't want him to think I was crazy or I mean, he knew that I could see ghosts and he knew a few things, but he didn't know the extent of my skills
Mhm,
and my abilities
mhm.
for a long time. And we were traveling one time, and we were going up to Oklahoma City, and the traffic was really busy, and I it was kind of stop and go. And I said, well, I could ask. He was getting really agitated, and I said, well, I could ask my angels to clear the path. And he was like, you can do that. I said, yeah. And he said, okay, let's see how that goes. So I did what and I talked to Gabriel and asked him and my guides to clear the path. And all of a sudden, our lane starts moving, and 4 lanes of traffic, and we're moving, and nobody else is moving. And he's like, wow, that's crazy. I'm not sure if I think this is just a fluke or what. And I was like, well, you want me to ask him to stop it? He was like, no, don't do that. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I, it kind of, things like that happen. And until now he's like fully on board. And he even sees people that, in his daily, escapades and routine, he'll call me or he'll send me a message, and I'll say, this person needs help. I saw this on Facebook. Can you help them? Or
Mhm.
the person at the feed store I met, they really could use some help. Can you help them? So
Yeah.
now he's like fully on board, and it's great.
Yeah, yeah, that makes all the difference in the world to know that, your significant other supports you and, your family because it's difficult enough to carry the burden of knowing that you know things that other people wouldn't consider normal. But then
Right.
when people that are the closest to you don't accept you or even try to understand that makes it difficult. And I love that story. I remember you telling me that story, and that's something that the angels will do. If people only knew how much angels want to help us with everything that we do, we wouldn't, nobody would hesitate for a moment to ask their guardian angel or to ask, the archangels, or there's an angel for everything. And just ask the angels to help you, and they will.
Yeah, and see, my aunt and uncle, I'm really my dad's siblings, I'm really close with them. And just in the last year, they've talked to me about everybody has one or two guardian angels, and I was like, why didn't you share this with me when I was a kid? It would have made all the difference in my life.
Right.
And they said, well, we've evolved. They're both really still very
Religious.
into, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
And so it really shocked me that they were so open to it.
Right.
And so my aunt asked, she's like, have you ever seen an angel? And I'm like, yeah, I saw Gabriel once
Mhm.
and at this place. And I said, now when I see him, he's like in blue jeans and loafers and a t-shirt sometimes,
Mhm.
you know,
Yes.
and she's like, well, I've heard that people see angels differently. And
Yeah.
I said, it just depends on the circumstance. You know, before I forget, while this is on my mind, when
Mhm.
we first started working with we decided we wanted to work with angels, and we were doing everything we could to learn about all the archangels and their, you know, their differences and what they could help with, and learning about calling them in and dropping in our heart space, and um, the how I started getting the signature of different angels is I spent one afternoon. It was a Sunday, and it was nice outside. So I was sitting on my porch, and I just said, you know, can I call in? I want to call in these angels and have them come up close to me, and so I can, you know, smell, hear, see, feel, whatever.
Mhm.
And so I called in Gabriel first, and I was like, okay, come closer. And he did. And I was like, a little closer. And he's like, I'm breathing in your ear. And I was like, okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
step back now. And then I did this with a lot of different, you know, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Raphael. Um, just I did this with a lot of different angels so that I would know when they were here, who's here.
Mhm.
And that was one of the best things I ever did. And I know we talked about, I had heard that if, because I was feeling frustrated because I wouldn't know how to read something, or when my guides were trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
And I had read, you know, if you don't have the symbol for it, give the symbol to your guide.
Mhm.
Wow, light bulb,
Mhm.
because that made all the difference in the world in me being able to communicate
Right.
with them. And you know, my guide Red Feather, he's he really walked this earth and really lived a life. He was a um, Lakota, or he was Dakota Brule um, Indian. Um, anyway, he's like, finally, you're listening, and I was like, yeah. Sometimes you gotta tap me on the head or something. He's like, I have. I used to tap your foot when you were having angels. Because remember we started that. I'd be like, okay, if this is angelic, tap me on the foot. And I went through that for a long time, and I was tapping you on the foot. And I was like, well, I thought that was Gabriel. And he's like, yeah, so much for that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I love that, and what you did was what I would call interviewing the angels, and that's really what you were doing, and how else could you understand their frequency, their vibration, the colors they might bring in, if they speak to you clairaudiently with your clear hearing, your inner clear hearing, how else would you know, if you didn't ask, you know, because it's not apparent. It's like we talked about earlier, you don't always see with your physical eyes. And sometimes you don't see with your clairvoyant sight either. You just feel. You will just feel an energy, or you'll see a color like flash, and you'll say, okay, this is, if it's green, for me, it's Archangel Raphael. You know, and Gabriel to me is that golden, yellowish color when he comes in. It's white. He's like the scribe, the writer, the communication, the all of that. You know, you just get to know um, their signature. What's
Do
that?
you remember with Gabriel, I said, I want to know when you're coming in. He's my guide as well as an archangel,
Mhm,
and not all of them serve in that capacity, but he is.
mhm.
And I said, I want to know, and this is in the beginning. I said, I want to know when you're coming. And he said, well, how do you propose we solve this issue? And I said, I want you to come blaring Johnny Cash horns, you know, dun, 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 dun. And he still does that, not all the time, but
Yeah,
sometimes it catches me off guard, and I'm like, oh, hey, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
because we don't need to do that anymore,
yeah,
because I know
yeah,
when he's with me. But
yeah. Angels
It
have
is
a
nice that
personality.
he's got a good sense of humor too.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Angels have a personality. So, okay, so you saw spirits, you know, we won't say ghosts, we'll say you saw spirits, you know, like people that had crossed over and they knew that you could see them, so they come to your light. That's why they come. They don't come to scare us. It's just that we don't know how to turn the on and off switch and say, "Look, I'm not open for business today. You know, I'm trying to be a human." You know, so you didn't
Yeah, I was scared to death.
Yep,
And
yep,
I even said, I'm not talking to any dead people. I'm not.
yep.
And, Archangel Metatron, he made that a simple transition for me. I mean, I had I had a spirit that was bothering me, like blowing smoke in my face, and I could smell the smoke, and no one around me could smell it. And I woke up at night, and I made my husband look for something burning,
Mhm.
and I finally got some help with that. And it was my brother-in-law who had passed away in 2003, but
Mhm.
hadn't crossed over, and I didn't realize it.
Mhm.
And so, um, understanding that process and knowing, instead of, because I spoke to it, I was like, go away.
Mhm.
And instead of, trying to embrace it and figure out who or what, um, I was just not going to have it.
Right.
And it scared me. But Archangel Metatron made it easy. He would like come up behind me, and I would put my hands in his cloak, and he would wrap around me with his arms.
Mhm.
And he said, use a like a door screen or a window screen.
Mhm.
Raise the window up when you're open, and let the person, the spirit on the other side of the screen talk to you. And when you're done, close the window, and I'll still be here with you. And then after a while, I didn't need to call him in. And
Yeah.
I don't need the screen anymore either.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It just speaks about how a lot of times we have teachers in the physical world, you know, human beings. But for me and for you as well, a lot of our teachers are actually in the spirit realm or higher dimensions, like with angelics, and even galactics, you know, like the good guys, those
Right?
two. So we have so many stories, but I want to, we'll have to do another podcast just to share like stories, because we have so many, but this is your story. So I just want to ask you, so from here, so with all of your growth, with all of your training, like all of the classes that you've taken, all of the time that you've sat in development, and I know your story, where where do you see yourself going with this, and what is your mission with all of this?
Okay, I'm here to help people. I know this. Every day I'm looking for that person that I'm supposed to help. And I always ask God every day to help me be a blessing, put people in my path so I can be a blessing to them today. And so I know that. And I'm also, I know that when spirit comes, I'm supposed to be helping them, and I do that. Also, crossing people over is really important to
Just
God. And
explain that for people, Cindy, that might not be aware of
okay,
what
when
crossing
when
people
when
over.
people die tragically or in an accident, and it's not a long illness or whatever, and they die. When they die suddenly, a lot of times they won't cross over because they don't feel worthy, or they don't know they're dead, or for whatever reason, or they're afraid of the light. They don't cross over. And I just had a situation not too long ago. Even though I'm helping people cross over, I didn't recognize it myself. I called Melissa, and all night long, my husband's grandma, she had passed away a couple of years back. And all night long, she was so angry, and about how her things were treated after she died. And just, I kept, every time I would get up and come back to bed, the dream would start over. It was her and being angry. And I called Melissa. I said, "What does this mean?" And she said, she didn't cross over because she's mad. She's angry. And I was like, oh my God, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. So we
Mm-hmm.
crossed her over. She had not crossed over.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can learn something every day.
Yes.
You just have to be open to it. And I'm fortunate that I'm so blessed to have my best friend.
Yeah, me too. Me
And,
too.
we've shared so much and we, bounce ideas and that kind of thing. So it's great because we've learned together a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things. And
Yeah.
so
That's important. Wouldn't you say, like, I feel so blessed to have connected with you, my soul sister from previous lifetimes, and
yep.
that's a whole other story. That was another thing that we had to work through. Oh my gosh, now does this all mean like that there's reincarnation, that all of these questions come up as you get deeper and deeper into your spiritual awakening, right?
Right.
And I want to tell people that if you have somebody that you're coming online and you're starting to become aware, make sure you partner up with somebody, because you're going to need that person to send that message to. Or when you start buying oracle cards, you pull a card for that person every day and you share messages from your heart, because that's really what this is about. This is about our
And
heart.
the other thing, Melissa and I have a desire to help people heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that may be a direction that we both go in at some point. Hopefully, with as technology is, there's a lot of technology that's being suppressed.
Yes.
And Melissa and I are excited about this technology coming through soon, because we want to help people heal. And
Yes.
so that may be a direction for us. And also, the other thing is, that we've studied and done some forensic work, and that would be another way for us to help people that have a message from beyond,
Yeah.
and there's a death involved that's unsolved or whatever.
Yeah.
We both really feel like that is a great way for us to help people as
Yeah.
well.
So many things, and I'm so glad that you brought up the healing, because early on, I want to share the story about how you were so unwell, and we are so connected. And I want to share that too. When you're so connected with somebody on a energetic level, that you love them so much that to think of ever being without that person and not having their support or having them around, you were not feeling well and you didn't know what was going on with you. So I got this strong urge to do a healing for you. And I had never, this was early on, before I had even taken Reiki or anything. And I went out and I was with my horse, Lucky. He's a spirit horse. That's a whole other story. But I had cut his forelock, like a little bit of his forelock, and I brought the hair in. And I told Cyndee, okay, I'm going to do this healing, and I want you to lay down, and I will call you when I'm done. Isn't that how I did it? Like, I called you when I was done. And I told her everything that happened. And then you pick up from there, Cyndee, and tell them like what happened after you did the healing. But I have to say one more thing, that healing happens because we figured this out early on. I held 50% of the healing and Cyndee held the other 50, and together we made the 100% of belief that healing happens when you set your intention to heal someone, and then you ask all of the guides, all of the angels, everything spirit has to bring that healing to that person.
I was so sick, and I had been sick for a couple of years, and it was like solar plexus area, and I couldn't even I had to stand because that was the only time when things were stretched out and I wasn't hurting, and it was totally miserable, and my doctor was started thinking maybe I have cancer. And
Mhm.
that day I had been at the doctor, and when he got done examining me and all this, I could not get off the table. That's how sick I was. I came home, I laid on the couch, and I told Melissa that I might have cancer, that he was going to send me, for treatment or whatever, discovery. And I had bought these two. Do you remember I had bought these crystals
Remember?
that
Yeah.
were self-healed? I got one for her and one for me. And I was like, self-healed, maybe they'll help us with healing work at some point. So we
Yeah.
both had one of those crystals when when she was doing this. As soon as it was over, she texted me and said, I'm done," and I prayed the whole time. Within 10 minutes, my stomach started gurgling and something inside me started moving. And within a few days, I was like cured. And I was like, hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
God, did I manifest this?
Mm-hmm.
Did I bring this illness on myself? And I think I did. But until I believed in higher healing, I couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah. I remember texting you like every day because I would say, Cyndee, how do you feel? Because when I was done, I was like, you are healed. And that's it. Like I wasn't even having any other answer, you know, I'm like, you're healed. And I'm just claiming this as a miraculous healing. And
It
then
was.
I would check in on you and I'd be like, every day, Cyndee, how are you feeling? And
Yeah.
you'd be like, I haven't felt this good in years. And I'd be like, and after about 2 weeks went by, I just stopped asking you, so,
It was 2 years of more than 2 years, like 2.5 years of the most excruciating pain.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I was having pancreatitis.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors were like, no, that's not what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought they were lying or something because I was in so much severe pain.
Yeah.
And that led us to, we're like, wow, that was really cool. Maybe we should think about healing.
Yeah.
So we started learning about healing. We both did Reiki class and different healing techniques, and we like to use them we pretty much use them every day. Those skills we've learned.
Yeah, every day. And we've had more than one spontaneous healing. Your grandson, and
Yep.
then also we did a healing for my daughter-in-law who could not conceive, and now she has twins. And we can.
Yeah, that went a little too good because my daughter got pregnant at the same time.
I know.
Our babies are like 6 weeks apart.
I
So
know.
we called in Freya, and we just and Red Feather came, and
Yep.
and we just had this big powwow, and
We
all
did.
of a sudden our kids are pregnant.
Yep. It was a hallelujah fest. I remember telling my daughter, I'm like,
really awesome.
oh, honey, you're gonna be pregnant. Just release all fear and all doubt. It's happening. There's just no way. We took the crystals out. We did the whole thing. And then we just, reconnected again and shared what we both got. And we were like, oh yeah, it's a done deal. And we never doubted a thing, did we?
Nope.
Nope.
No, I just wasn't expecting my daughter to get pregnant so soon. And then Melissa was like, about 2-3 weeks later, she was like, Katie's pregnant. That's my daughter. She's like, no, she's pregnant. And I was like, no, and then it was all came back to me. Wow, that healing we did, really, those angels took that seriously.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. And it's just so, so beautiful. And to me, all of this work is healing. So when you give a psychic reading, when you give a mediumship reading, when anything that we do energetically, that is the mission, to heal someone on a level that they will not receive anywhere else.
Yeah, because, and that might be God's way of us blessing them that day, is planting that seed that they're more than just, God didn't intend for us to live the life that we live, as far as, go to work, come home, go to bed, get up and go to work again, and never have time for ourselves spiritually and our family. He didn't intend for us to live this way. So if we can plant that seed, as well as, helping them heal with the angels, I think that's part of the plan.
It is the plan. And I don't know about you, but early on in my life, like I always felt like I was missing something. I was always searching for something, though I knew I had that connection to God. Always knew God was with me, always felt that, never had a problem believing in God. But yet there was something, and this is that something.
Yeah.
Is that something?
Totally agree.
Yep.
Totally.
Oh man,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, and I feel like we'll do many more of
Yeah.
these podcasts, and there's just so many stories to share with people. And but before we get done, we have Gypsy JJ here with us. If she had a question, she'd like to ask, we'd be willing to answer that. But I want you to tell people where they can get in touch with you if they would like to have a reading with you.
Yeah, you can email me. It's blessedmotherearth@outlook.com.
Let's see here. So Gypsy JJ wants to know, be open to a world of endless possibilities, a card from my fairy deck. Oh,
We
thank
love fairy
you.
decks.
Yeah, do you know that Gypsy JJ lives in Oklahoma too?
Wow, cool.
Yeah, she does. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the world is an endless possibility. After God opened my eyes to the possibilities, it changed everything for me. My whole belief system, my whole frame of mind, just everything. It just opened up so much more for me. And I know that I've been able to help a lot of people.
Yes.
And as well as you help a lot of people.
Yes.
And, if we could just do a little more every day.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
Yeah. I really feel that. I just want to, if you have anything else that comes in that you would like to share, I just feel like it's all about opening the doors for people and to let them know that this is not evil. There's nothing dark about it. In fact, we're going to be raising our level of consciousness on Mother Earth, Lady Gaia, that tells people that this is the way we were made, but we weren't told we were made this way. And my mission is to help young children, my grandchildren, to know that if they experience anything that we might have been told was our imagination, that I will listen and I will know that they aren't just imagining things. They might just be wide open. And we're going to find out that these kids, with each generation, they will be more and more open. So they're going to know more than us, but they still need to be taught, because they're still going to be so close to that energy of where we come from, and they're going to have remembrances. And we're just here to help guide them to know that these are their gifts. This is what makes us human, this love inside of us, these awarenesses that we need to just start sharing and normalizing.
Yes, absolutely. And my third grandson, he's 4. I've been working with him to teach him, the ways of our people as well, the culture of our people. And pardon me. And the baby, he's 3 months old, and I talked to him about what a great warrior he is. And he always listens, very closely. He's like, his eyes are glued to me, because I always tell him he's angelically guided and protected, and he is a warrior, and he likes it. And I can see into his eyes, and I know that there's so much that he wants to get out. He's just not capable yet because he's still a baby.
But you are communicating with him on a telepathic level. I mean, you just know, when you do what we do, that you are, and that he understands you on that soul level, Yeah. Well, I want to thank you once again, and I thank all of the replay watchers, and thank you, Gypsy JJ, for being with us tonight. And anybody else that watches the replay, if you have questions, just feel free to put them in the comment section underneath this video, and we will be happy to answer any and all of your questions. Until next time, Reverend Lisa Kennedy signing off, and we're wishing you light, love, peace, and blessings of all kinds. Bye-bye now.